Okay, so I'm trying out a new video format, clearly, but I've got a new idea for my videos, so here I am rising from the dead like some useless zombie to grace you with a new YouTube series that hopefully one or two people will care about. No official name for it, but I'm thinking something along the lines of Rewrite, Redraw, Reboot, because that's what it's all about. Little fun fact about me, but I've always loved taking story concepts and characters and making them my own, and I do it obsessively. The consequence of this is that I have a lot of stories to share, so I'm gonna start telling anyone who will listen about them. And what better story to start with than the one I've gotten farthest with? So allow me to introduce you to SheZow the Reboot. We all know what SheZow is, wait. Nobody but me knows anything at all about SheZow, but will that stop me? Never. Yeah, that's gonna end up being a reoccurring theme here. A lot of the stuff I do rewrites for are typically very obscure children's shows. Things with very little plot, as that gives me more freedom to create my own, and I also find that these really obscure TV shows actually have a lot of potential that would be cool if you could use them in a little bit of more mature storytelling. So what plot are we working with now? The original SheZow show follows the story of this kid named Guy Hamden along with his sister Kelly and his best friend Maz. Kelly and Guy's great-aunt has recently passed away, and Guy's family is moving into her old house that they inherited. While cleaning out the basement, they find a ring that Kelly identifies as belonging to her favorite superhero, SheZow. Yes, that name is goofy as hell, but we're gonna just roll with it. She comes to the conclusion that Aunt Agnes was SheZow, and this superhero destiny runs in the family, meaning it's her turn to hold the torch. Guy is not so convinced, and mocks her for her outlandish assumption by putting on the ring himself, which turns him into SheZow, and now the ring is permanently bound to him, meaning that he's stuck being SheZow for the rest of his life, and consequently has to wear her girly superhero suit too. And that's basically the whole plot of the show. A cross-dressing superhero getting into trouble and saving the day with co in tow. The rest of the series is episodic, so not much story happens from then on. Now that we've got the basics down, I'm gonna show you a few concept sketches up on screen while I talk about the show's wasted potential and what changes I've made. The concept itself is very interesting to me. We don't get a whole lot of shows about how sexism affects boys and watching them grow out of that. At least not where that's the main theme. Cross-dressing and the mixing of masculinity and femininity is also not an often touched upon subject, and I think that's a shame. There's also just not enough character development for my tastes in the original material. I know that show wasn't meant to be very deep, but Guy started out as a total sexist jerk with super fragile masculinity, and I would say he gets a little more comfortable as SheZow after a while, even being proud of it to an extent, but I want to expand upon that. I want to expand upon everything, actually. I'm going to start with plot and the overarching themes, and then go on to explain the character arcs in a little bit more detail. There are a lot of intense themes in this story that I'm writing, one of the big ones being grief. After all, at the beginning of the series, their aunt just passed away. And something that exasperates that further is the fact that Guy is not allowing himself to show weakness in the face of this tragedy, trying and succeeding to hide how much he's hurting. Which brings us to another big theme, toxic masculinity and how hurtful it is to boys themselves. Guy comes into this story as a very flawed character, not out of any place of being genuinely cruel. It's just because he's a 14-year-old boy who grew up thinking his worth was determined by his ability to be masculine. Guy is going to remain masculine throughout the series, but while wearing the dress and the cape, he begins to see past certain hang-ups and grow as a person. I'm going to introduce new spins on past one-dimensional villains, higher stakes, challenging situations where Guy is forced to realize his new responsibility and feel guilt over falling short. And through all this conflict, he's going to come out the other end with a healthier perspective, including repairing his relationship with Kelly. One of my favorite aspects of this story is Kelly and Guy's relationship, because when it starts out, it is not good. I'm now going to dive into Kelly as a character a little bit more, because she is honestly one of my favorite things to write about. In the original show, Kelly is disrespectfully underdeveloped. A main plot point in this story is how Kelly really wanted to be SheZow. SheZow was her idol. Being SheZow would have been a dream come true for her. And then her brother puts on the ring and accidentally snatches away her perceived destiny. But that's not even where the tension in their relationship starts. Ignoring the fact that they just never really got along in the first place, after Aunt Agnes's death, their relationship became even more strained because of Guy's refusal to cry at her funeral or even at all since her passing. Something that Kelly sees as him not caring enough. These two facts are like a cauldron of bubbling resentment, just begging to overflow as the story goes on. But as it does so, there are moments of communication and honesty, and a few messy fights, that actually end up bringing these two closer than they ever were before. Well, with a little help from Maz. This character originally was a very stereotypical, goofy best friend. There wasn't a lot to this guy. I liked him, but his only character traits were funny and dumb a lot of the time. He also had a shtick where he was SheZow's sidekick and would come up with a new alter ego basically every day. That part was mildly amusing. It was unique, I'll give it that. But I ended up cutting it as the joke itself was usually at Maz's expense. Instead, Maz becomes a very integral part of the story in the form of being Guy's most healthy form of support. Because gender and toxic masculinity are a big part of this story, I don't want the whole thing to be just Kelly lecturing Guy on why being sexist is wrong. There's a bit of that, because of course some of that conversation needs to happen with women as they're on the other side of that spectrum, but I don't want to talk down to boys during this. This is kind of a story for them. And honestly, Kelly herself doesn't have the healthiest view of masculinity either, or at least the healthiest way of showing it. So instead, I wanted to present Maz. He's a masculine boy, like Guy. But unlike Guy, he's comfortable in said masculinity. He doesn't go around wearing dresses himself, but he doesn't bat an eye when Guy reveals himself as SheZow, instead being stoked that his best friend is a superhero. He constantly hypes Guy up, is there for him when he's upset, and tries to get Guy to open up to him, which he eventually does. Don't worry, Maz gets to have his own character stuff too, but that's where this starts to get a little spoilery. And the reason I'm avoiding that is because I've actually started creating this story over on AO3. That's right, this whole vid was basically just one big advertisement for my fanfic, but was it not entertaining? Anyways, if you watch this far and like what you're hearing, maybe hop over to SheZow the Reboot and give it a try. I'm 9 chapters in, and each one is like a complete episodic story with continuity. Beware though, it is very long. Either way, thank you for watching this far, and I hope my thoughts and art intrigued you in some way. Thank you, and goodbye for now. Hopefully I'll end up doing some more of these.